Have you ever felt like someone was playing mind games with you? Like you're walking on eggshells, constantly questioning your own thoughts, feelings, or reality? You're not alone. Many people find themselves caught in relationships, both personal and professional, where they feel manipulated, controlled, or mentally drained by subtle tactics that make them second guess their own sanity. These mind games and psychological manipulation tactics are designed to undermine your confidence and shift your reality, leaving you confused and vulnerable. But the good news is that once you recognize these behaviors, you can regain control. Understanding these tactics is essential. Manipulators thrive in the shadows, using subtle techniques to control your emotions, decisions, and even your life. Whether it's in a romantic relationship with a friend, at work, or in family dynamics, manipulation often occurs in ways that are hard to detect at first. They might guilt trip you, gaslight you, or distort the truth to suit their own agenda. But once you spot these games, you can start fighting back. The first step in reclaiming your power is recognizing that you don't have to accept these manipulations. Boundaries are not just a defense, they are a declaration of your worth. When you set clear boundaries, you communicate that you value yourself and that you will no longer tolerate being treated unfairly. These boundaries act as a shield, allowing you to protect your emotional well being and make choices that prioritize your happiness and peace of mind. Once you understand the game, you can break free from the cycle of manipulation and stop allowing these tactics to affect your mental and emotional state. In this guide, we'll explore 7 common mind games used by manipulators and offer strategies to outsmart them. From gaslighting to guilt tripping, each of these tactics is designed to leave you feeling uncertain and vulnerable. But by the end of this guide, you'll have the tools to protect yourself, stand your ground, and stop falling for these manipulative tactics. You deserve to have relationships where you feel respected, valued, and in control of your own life. And this guide will show you how to reclaim that power. Gaslighting is a manipulative tactic that targets your perception of reality, making you question your own memories, thoughts, or even your sanity. It's a form of psychological manipulation where the manipulator distorts the truth to confuse or disorient you. For example, they might tell you something you clearly remember doing or saying didn't happen, or they might accuse you of being too sensitive for pointing out hurtful actions they've taken, making you feel like you're overreacting. The goal is to make you doubt your own experiences, eventually leaving you feeling insecure and unsure of what's real. At first, gaslighting is often subtle. It can begin with small contradictions, unclear responses, or dismissive behavior. For instance, they might deny something that happened or claim you're imagining it. These tactics are designed to make you question your perception of events. Over time, if left unchecked, gaslighting becomes more overt. They might blatantly deny conversations you've had, manipulate facts to suit their narrative, or even claim that your version of events is simply an exaggeration. The manipulator plays on your self doubt, exploiting it to gain control over your emotions and decisions. The core of gaslighting is to undermine your sense of reality. And this tactic works because it slowly chips away at your confidence in your own memory and judgment. You may begin second guessing yourself, wondering if your recollection of events is flawed. This internal conflict weakens your ability to trust your own thoughts and feelings, leaving you more susceptible to the manipulator's influence. So, how do you outsmart gaslighting and regain control over your reality? The first step is to trust your memory and intuition. If you clearly remember something happening, don't let them talk you out of it. Your perception of events is valid and your experiences deserve to be acknowledged. When you're confident in your recollection, you're less likely to be swayed by their attempts to distort the truth. Another effective strategy is to document everything. Keep records of conversations, save text messages, or jot down notes on important interactions. By documenting your reality, you create an anchor to refer to when you're feeling confused or uncertain. This helps you maintain a clear perspective and serves as concrete evidence when the manipulator tries to twist the truth. Having these records also empowers you to confront the manipulator with facts, making it harder for them to deny your experiences. It's also crucial to stay calm and firm when dealing with gaslighting. When the manipulator tries to confuse you, resist the urge to engage in their mind games. Instead, stand by your truth with quiet assurance. You don't need to defend yourself aggressively, but by calmly asserting your reality, you send a clear message that you won't allow their manipulation to affect you. This helps you maintain emotional stability and avoids getting caught in their web of deceit. Finally, remember that gaslighting thrives on your self doubt. The moment you stop doubting yourself, the manipulator loses their power. By trusting your memory, documenting your experiences, and staying firm in your truth, you take away their ability to control your perception of reality. This is your key to breaking free from their manipulation and reclaiming your mental and emotional strength. Gaslighting is a dangerous game, but it can be outsmarted. Trust yourself, document your reality, and remain calm when confronted with their tactics. Once you regain confidence in your perception, the manipulator's power over you diminishes, and you can stop falling for their mind games. Guilt tripping is a powerful manipulative tool that plays on your empathy and sense of responsibility. It works by making you feel like you are responsible for someone else's emotions or actions, often forcing you into a position where you feel obligated to act in ways that align with their needs or desires, even if it's at the expense of your own well being. For example, a guilt tripper might say, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me." Or, "I thought you cared about me, but now I see I was wrong." These statements are designed to invoke feelings of guilt, making you question your behavior and feel compelled to take action to alleviate their emotional distress. How does guilt tripping work? The manipulator uses your natural desire to help and care for others as a weapon to create an emotional imbalance. By positioning themselves as the victim, they make you feel like you're the bad guy for not meeting their needs. They will use your compassion against you, playing on your sense of responsibility and making you feel like you're abandoning them if you don't do what they want. However, the truth is that guilt trippers don't want your support, they want control. They use guilt to manipulate your behavior, pushing you into doing things you wouldn't otherwise do, all while making you feel like it's the only way to avoid being seen as cruel or uncaring. To outsmart guilt tripping, the first step is to recognize the manipulation for what it is. When you notice that guilt is being used to sway your decisions, pause and assess the situation. Ask yourself, is this really about me and my actions, or are they just trying to control my behavior? This moment of reflection allows you to separate your genuine concern for the other person from the manipulative tactics they are employing. It's important to realize that their feelings and reactions are theirs to manage, not yours to fix or carry the burden of. Once you recognize the guilt trip, setting clear boundaries becomes crucial. Your emotions are yours to manage, not theirs. It's important to understand that you are not responsible for how others feel or react, especially when those feelings are being used to manipulate you. This mindset helps you reclaim control of your emotional landscape and prevents you from falling into the trap of excessive guilt. Establishing boundaries and sticking to them ensures that you prioritize your own needs and values without being coerced into making decisions based on someone else's emotional manipulation. When responding to a guilt trip, it's vital to remain calm and assertive rather than reacting emotionally. Guilt trippers often want to provoke an emotional reaction, but staying composed and firm in your response takes away their power. For example, you could calmly say, "I understand that you're upset, but this is my decision and I'm not going to feel guilty for it." By doing so, you acknowledge their feelings but also stand your ground, showing them that their manipulative tactic won't work on you. This helps you maintain your emotional integrity while reinforcing your boundaries. Guilt tripping is a powerful manipulative tool that plays on your empathy and sense of responsibility. It works by making you feel like you are responsible for someone else's emotions or actions, often forcing you into a position where you feel obligated to act in ways that align with their needs or desires, even if it's at the expense of your own well being. For example, a guilt tripper might say, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me." Or, "I thought you cared about me, but now I see I was wrong." These statements are designed to invoke feelings of guilt, making you question your behavior and feel compelled to take action to alleviate their emotional distress. How does guilt tripping work? The manipulator uses your natural desire to help and care for others as a weapon to create an emotional imbalance. By positioning themselves as the victim, they make you feel like you're the bad guy for not meeting their needs. They will use your compassion against you, playing on your sense of responsibility and making you feel like you're abandoning them if you don't do what they want. However, the truth is that guilt trippers don't want your support. They want control. They use guilt to manipulate your behavior, pushing you into doing things you wouldn't otherwise do, all while making you feel like it's the only way to avoid being seen as cruel or uncaring. To outsmart guilt tripping, the first step is to recognize the manipulation for what it is. When you notice that guilt is being used to sway your decisions, pause and assess the situation. Ask yourself, is this really about me and my actions, or are they just trying to control my behavior? This moment of reflection allows you to separate your genuine concern for the other person from the manipulative tactics they are employing. It's important to realize that their feelings and reactions are theirs to manage, not yours to fix or carry the burden of. Once you recognize the guilt trip, setting clear boundaries becomes crucial. Your emotions are yours to manage, not theirs. It's important to understand that you are not responsible for how others feel or react, especially when those feelings are being used to manipulate you. This mindset helps you reclaim control of your emotional landscape and prevents you from falling into the trap of excessive guilt. Establishing boundaries and sticking to them ensures that you prioritize your own needs and values without being coerced into making decisions based on someone else's emotional manipulation. When responding to a guilt trip, it's vital to remain calm and assertive rather than reacting emotionally. Guilt trippers often want to provoke an emotional reaction, but staying composed and firm in your response takes away their power. For example, you could calmly say, I understand that you're upset, but this is my decision and I'm not going to feel guilty for it. By doing so, you acknowledge their feelings, but also stand your ground, showing them that their manipulative tactic won't work on you. This helps you maintain your emotional integrity while reinforcing your boundaries. Guilt manipulation loses its power when you stop buying into the narrative. When you recognize it for what it is, an attempt to control your behavior, you can confidently make decisions that are in your best interest, free from the weight of false guilt. Remember, you control your choices. No one else has the right to make you feel responsible for their emotions, and setting healthy boundaries will allow you to protect yourself from falling victim to guilt tripping in the future. The silent treatment is a powerful and emotionally manipulative tactic used to punish or control others by withholding affection or communication. When someone uses this method, they intentionally withdraw from you, stopping responses to texts, avoiding eye contact, or giving short, dismissive answers in conversation. The goal is to create confusion, anxiety, and emotional distress. The manipulator knows that silence can be incredibly discomforting, and they use it as a tool to make you chase after them, seeking validation and approval. By withdrawing emotionally, they try to put you in a position where you feel like you've done something wrong and need to make amends. How does the silent treatment work? Manipulators use silence to create emotional tension and destabilize you. Humans are wired for connection, and when that connection is suddenly severed, it triggers a sense of panic. You might start wondering what you did to upset them or what went wrong in the relationship. This emotional turmoil makes you want to fix things, and in doing so, you may find yourself apologizing or trying to earn back their affection. The manipulator doesn't want resolution or reconciliation, they want control. They want to see you beg, apologize, or adjust your behavior to their liking. The silent treatment becomes a power play, a way for them to control the flow of the relationship by using your need for emotional connection against you. To outsmart the silent treatment, the most effective strategy is not to chase after them. The moment you begin chasing someone who's withdrawing, you fall into the trap they've set for you. Their silence is meant to destabilize you, but it only works if you react. Refusing to chase them prevents the manipulator from getting the response they desire. Instead of trying to win their approval, focus on maintaining your emotional stability. Resist the urge to seek reassurance from them, as this will only encourage the cycle to continue. If they choose silence, give them the space they've decided they need. Use this time not to chase them, but to reflect on whether this type of behavior is something you're willing to tolerate in the relationship. A healthy relationship is built on open communication, not emotional manipulation. If silence is being used as a punishment, it's a sign that something deeper may be wrong with the dynamic between you. It's also important to set clear expectations when it comes to how issues are resolved. Communication is the foundation of any healthy relationship, and emotional games like the silent treatment should never be an acceptable way to handle conflict. Politely but firmly communicate that silence isn't an acceptable method of dealing with problems. When someone withdraws as a way of controlling the situation, make it clear that you value direct communication and that emotional manipulation will not work on you. The most powerful thing you can do when faced with the silent treatment is to stop chasing the person who's using it. When you refuse to engage with their emotional game, they will eventually realize that their tactics don't work on you anymore. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth or chase after their approval. Instead, you're focused on preserving your emotional peace and well being. By refusing to give in to their manipulation, you not only protect your mental health, but also establish the kind of relationship where both parties respect each other enough to engage openly, honestly, and without emotional manipulation. The silent treatment loses its power when you stop reacting. By standing firm in your boundaries and not chasing someone who is withdrawing as a means of control, you reclaim your emotional sovereignty and show that you won't be manipulated. This approach not only strengthens your sense of self worth, but also sets the tone for healthier, more respectful relationships in the future. Love bombing is a manipulative tactic where someone overwhelms you with excessive affection and attention to gain control of your emotions and create dependency. At first, it can feel intoxicating, like the start of a magical fairy tale like romance. They shower you with constant compliments, gifts, and declarations of love. They text you incessantly, make grand romantic gestures, and speak about a future together almost immediately. It feels incredible, like you finally found someone who truly adores you. And you might even think, this is it, the relationship I've been waiting for. How does love bombing work? The manipulator creates a rapid surge of affection that taps into your emotional needs. This flood of love and attention triggers a dopamine rush, making you feel special, desired, and validated. The high feels so good that you start to crave more, and you may begin to feel deeply connected to the person. But here's the trick: the intense love you're experiencing isn't actually about you, it's about creating emotional dependence. The manipulator's goal isn't to build a healthy, balanced relationship, but to establish control. Once they feel they've won you over and you've become emotionally attached, the love bombing starts to fade. The grand gestures and constant attention decrease, leaving you wondering why things changed. You might feel confused or abandoned, yet you'll find yourself still craving the affection that was once so abundant. This sudden withdrawal creates an emotional void, making you more eager to win back their attention. The manipulator has now effectively secured your emotional dependence, which is the ultimate goal of love bombing. To outsmart love bombing, the most important thing you can do is slow things down. Real love doesn't rush. Healthy relationships grow at a natural pace, allowing both parties to establish trust, understanding, and mutual respect. If someone is moving too fast, professing love after just a few weeks, or rushing into intimacy, it's a clear sign that you need to take a step back. Give the relationship time to develop. Pay attention to whether their intentions align with your own pace and comfort level. Maintaining your independence is also crucial. Love bombing thrives on the fantasy of an idealized connection where the person becomes your everything. To protect yourself, keep your hobbies, friendships, and identity intact. Don't lose yourself in the whirlwind of affection. A healthy relationship involves two individuals coming together while still maintaining their individuality. If you start neglecting your personal interests or distancing yourself from your loved ones, it may be a sign that you've become too enmeshed in the manipulator's emotional grip. Another red flag is inconsistency. If the affection that was once so abundant suddenly shifts to coldness or indifference, it's time to pay attention. Manipulators often use this tactic to create uncertainty, making you feel like you need to earn their love again. The sudden shift from overwhelming affection to emotional distance is a key characteristic of love bombing. If you notice this pattern, trust your instincts and don't ignore it. Real love grows slowly and steadily based on mutual respect and understanding. If someone is rushing intimacy, especially in the early stages of a relationship, it's crucial to pause and evaluate their motivations. Are they genuinely interested in you as a person, or are they trying to control you through emotional manipulation? Don't let the rush of affection cloud your judgment. Take a step back, reflect, and make sure you're entering a healthy, balanced relationship, not one built on dependency and control. In the end, love should feel safe, balanced, and fulfilling, not overwhelming and controlling. When someone's intentions aren't genuine, you'll likely feel more confused and anxious than loved. If someone is rushing to get close to you, it's time to pause and evaluate whether they truly care for you or if they're simply trying to manipulate your emotions. Moving the goalposts is a manipulative tactic where someone constantly raises their expectations after you meet the initial ones, leaving you in a never ending cycle of trying to prove yourself. Imagine putting in all your effort to meet someone's standards, whether it's in a relationship, at work, or within a friendship, only for them to shift the bar just when you think you've succeeded. You finish one task and suddenly there's a new, more demanding one waiting for you. No matter how hard you try, it feels like your efforts are never good enough. How does moving the goalposts work? This tactic is designed to keep you in a state of uncertainty and frustration. The manipulator is never satisfied with what you do because they've intentionally set the bar too high or constantly adjust it. The result is that you're stuck in a loop of trying to meet ever changing expectations. This can make you question your abilities and create feelings of inadequacy. Over time, you may even start doubting yourself and believing that no matter what you do, it won't be enough to gain their approval. The manipulator, in turn, uses this constant striving to control your actions and behavior. By keeping you perpetually chasing an unattainable standard, they maintain the upper hand in the relationship. To outsmart the tactic of moving the goalposts, the first thing you need to do is set your own standards. Don't let someone else dictate what success or effort should look like for you. Define what is important to you and make sure your efforts are measured by your own criteria, not someone else's fluctuating expectations. When you start valuing your work and efforts based on your own standards, you'll be less likely to fall into the trap of constantly trying to meet someone else's unrealistic demands. Another key strategy is to call out the tactic when you notice it happening. If someone shifts the goalpost after you've met their original request, call attention to it. For example, you could say, "You asked for X and I delivered X. If that's not enough, then that's not my issue." By calling out the manipulative behavior, you stop playing the game altogether. You make it clear that you're not willing to keep jumping through hoops just to please them. In many cases, a manipulator relies on your silence and compliance. When you confront them, you remove their control over you and put the power back in your hands. Lastly, stop seeking validation from someone who refuses to recognize your efforts. If someone consistently moves the goalposts, it's a clear sign that they are not invested in appreciating or acknowledging your hard work. Continually seeking approval from them will only lead to frustration and self doubt. Instead, focus on seeking validation from within and from people who truly respect and appreciate your efforts. Recognize your worth and don't rely on someone who's only interested in keeping you in a cycle of frustration. Once you stop playing their game, the manipulator loses their power. You break free from the cycle of constantly trying to meet their ever changing demands. By setting your own standards, calling out the manipulative behavior, and refusing to seek validation from someone who won't acknowledge your efforts, you take control of your own actions and emotional well being. You stop allowing someone else to set the pace of your life and start living on your own terms. Moving the goalposts is a tactic that thrives on your need for approval and your fear of failure. But when you recognize it and stand firm in your boundaries, you can protect your sense of self worth and emotional peace. Don't let someone else's shifting expectations dictate your worth or success. Define it for yourself. Triangulation is a psychological manipulation tactic in which a person deliberately involves a third party in an existing conflict or conversation. The goal is to create division, confusion, or a sense of insecurity between two people, often to strengthen the manipulator's control over the situation. By introducing an outsider into the dynamic, the manipulator aims to make one of the parties feel isolated, outnumbered, or even doubting their perspective. This tactic exploits relationships and the dynamics between people to cause discord and manipulate emotions. At its core, triangulation can make the targeted person feel as though they are in the wrong simply by manipulating how others are involved in the dispute. This method is often subtle and it can take on different forms, ranging from blatant to more passive insinuations. In many cases, triangulation is used to undermine someone's sense of self worth or make them question their perceptions. For example, a manipulative person might tell someone, I don't know if you realize, but Sarah thinks you're being a little harsh. Or, Tom actually agrees with me about how you've been acting lately. By bringing in a third party's opinion, the manipulator suggests that the other party's feelings or interpretations of the situation are flawed or unsupported. This manipulates the original person into feeling alienated, vulnerable, or even questioning their own feelings or actions. Triangulation is a common tactic used in various types of relationships, such as between family members, romantic partners, or colleagues. It's often part of a broader pattern of controlling behavior that erodes trust, creates confusion, and shifts the balance of power in favor of the manipulator. In a romantic relationship, a partner might intentionally drag a mutual friend into a disagreement, saying something like, well, when I spoke to Julie, she said I'm justified in feeling upset about this. The manipulator isn't directly confronting the issue with their partner, but instead distorting the situation by using a third party's opinion as a form of validation. This tactic can make the targeted person feel as though they're being irrational or unreasonable, especially when it feels like everyone else is siding with the manipulator. In family dynamics, a parent might triangulate siblings by saying, your brother thinks you're being too sensitive about this issue. The implication is that the siblings should be on the same page, creating unnecessary tension and resentment. This not only creates division, but also makes the targeted sibling feel as though they are the odd one out in the family dynamic. At the workplace, a manipulative coworker might claim, I overheard Jane talking about how she thinks you're taking this project too seriously. Or, I had a conversation with the boss, and it seems they believe you're not pulling your weight. This can cause confusion and a breakdown in communication, particularly if the targeted individual starts second guessing their own actions or feels as though they are being unfairly judged by others. Triangulation is deeply harmful because it undermines healthy communication and trust in relationships. By drawing in a third party, the manipulator not only distorts the narrative, but also distracts from the real issue at hand. The primary goal of triangulation is to ensure that the manipulator remains in control of the situation while keeping others in a constant state of uncertainty. This often leads to confusion and self doubt, where the targeted individual begins to question their perception of reality or their feelings, wondering if everyone else agrees with the manipulator. It also increases conflict and division, as rather than resolving the original issue, triangulation exacerbates the conflict by involving more people, making it harder to resolve the underlying problem. Moreover, it causes isolation and alienation as the manipulator works to turn others against the target, creating emotional distance from those who might have once been supportive. Finally, it inhibits personal growth as the victim of triangulation may lose confidence in their ability to handle conflicts independently, relying more on the manipulator's version of events rather than their own judgment. To defend against triangulation, it's important to recognize when it's happening. A few signs include indirect communication, where the manipulator avoids direct confrontation and instead tells you what others are supposedly thinking. The focus of the conversation often shifts to someone else's opinion or behavior rather than resolving the core issue. Additionally, you may begin to feel isolated as though everyone else is on the manipulator's side or perceiving the situation differently. To counteract triangulation, one can address the manipulator directly, having an open conversation with the person involved, asking for clarification, and expressing concerns about third party interference. It can also be helpful to communicate directly with the third party when possible to understand their true perspective. Setting clear boundaries is key, making it known that triangulation is not an acceptable way of handling conflicts and that direct communication is preferred. By recognizing triangulation and responding thoughtfully, it becomes possible to maintain control over personal boundaries and relationships, creating a healthier environment for resolving conflicts.